In a quiet seaside town, there lived a boy named Elijah and a girl named Santa. They were just kids, but somehow, it felt like they'd known each other for lifetimes. She would braid wildflowers into his hair, and he'd race her home when the sky turned gray. But they didn't run for cover, they danced in it. They didn't know what love was. Not really, but they knew they didn't want to be apart. Until one day, they were. Santa's family moved back to her native village, thousands of miles away, across the ocean, where the rains were warmer, but lonelier. No farewell, just a tight hug and a paper crane he folded for her on their last afternoon. He watched her drive away, the sky crying harder than he did. She left with the paper crane Elijah made for her and tucked it inside her journal. She had always wanted to write him, but never did. Not because she forgot him, but because it hurt too much to say goodbye. Years passed. Sana grew into a thoughtful, quiet woman. She taught literature at a small school and helped her grandmother tend the garden. But every monsoon season, she'd sit by the window, crane in her hand, and remember the boy who made the sky feel like a secret. Then came the news. Her father had arranged a marriage to a respectable man, wealthy, stern, not cruel but not kind either, not Elijah. Santa sat under the banyan tree that night, her dress soaked in rain, and cried. She didn't scream, she didn't run, but inside, something broke. Considering her mother and father wed due to an arrangement and grew to love one another, she told herself this was her fate. That true love was a luxury some women don't get. And yet she kept that old paper crane folded in her palm. As the wedding day crept closer. Now, as for Elijah grew into a quiet man, kind eyes, heavy heart. Elijah never moved on. He dated. He wandered. But no one ever spoke the language Sana taught him in the rain. He traveled from city to city, searching for something. Or maybe someone. He never said her name out loud. One rainy night in Kyoto, an old traveler spoke of a wedding in a distant village. A girl named Sana was to be married in approximately 2 days. Not by choice, by arrangement. And just like that, the rain outside matched the storm inside him. Elijah didn't have a plan, just her name and a memory, but he boarded the next train. He crossed rivers, walked miles through thick forest, slept under awnings, and asked anyone who'd listen. "Do you know a girl named Santa?" he'd ask. Most shook their heads, until one elderly woman looked up and said, "She lives at the edge of the village where the rain falls hardest." It was now her wedding day. Sana was dressed in gold and jasmine, but her soul felt as gray as the rain clouds that filled the sky. Sana sat still, wrapped in silken sorrow, as jasmine flowers fell from her hair. But her eyes, they searched the horizon. Finally, it was time. With hesitation, Sana began to walk down the aisle, everyone staring in awe at the beautiful young bride. Her fiancé greeted her at the altar with a gentle smile, but Sana, with her head bowed, could not look him in the eyes. The priest began chanting. She kept looking toward the chapel doors. Suddenly, there was a loud commotion that could be heard in the distance that became closer and closer that disrupted the ceremony. Then all you could hear were footsteps. The doors of the chapel swung open, and then there he was, breathless, wet, familiar. Everyone in the chapel gasped. "Elijah," Sana whispered. He stood in the doorway of the chapel, soaked, heart thudding louder than the drums. "I came to bring you home." She blinked, tears streaming now freely with the rain outside. "I thought you had forgotten," she whispered. "I tried," he said, "but even the rain reminded me of you." He stepped closer and reached out for her hand. "I have loved you with everything that I have, everything that I am, all of these years. No matter the time or distance, the feelings never left me. Nothing has been able to fill this void of you." Oh, Elijah, Senna said with a soft smile. Santa's fiancé tried to intervene, but Santa's father quickly stopped him and said, "If it is my daughter's desire to be with Elijah, then I will allow it. You only get one chance at true love, and who am I to strip that away from her?" Santa then looked at her mother, and with approval, she nodded with tears and a smile. Without hesitation, they ran out of the chapel, hand in hand, ran through muddy streets, into the open storm, laughing like the children they once were. No regrets, no doubts, just rain, and a world that suddenly felt right again. He handed her a new paper crane. "I never learned how to fold one without thinking of you." And this time, they didn't say goodbye. They said forever where the rain falls. 2 years later, they're married, not in a palace, but in the same childhood home Elijah once raised her to, the same porch where he made her that first paper crane. Santa rocks their daughter to sleep while Elijah teaches their son how to fold paper into wings. Rain taps gently on the roof. Not a storm, just a whisper. Santa smiles at Elijah. It always rains on the best days. And Elijah says, maybe it rains because we're home. Together, they sit in the doorway barefoot, in love, and finally, dry from the storm. Where the rain once fell, and where love still lives. Where the rain once fell, and where love still lives.